चमके भारत नाम सुहागा। जय हो जय हो जय हो, जय 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 हो। सबके दिल में प्रीत बसाए तेरी मीठी वाणी, हर सूबे के रहने वाले, हर मजहब के प्राणी, सब भेद और फर्क मिटा के, सब गोद में तेरी आके, गूंजे प्रेम की माला, सूरज बनकर जग पर चमके भारत नाम सुहागा। जय हो जय हो जय हो, जय 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 हो। सुबह सवेरे पंख पखेरू तेरे ही गुण गाए, मास भरी भरपूर हवाएं जीवन में रुत लाए, सब मिल जय हिंद पुकारे, जय आजाद हिंद के नारे, प्यारा देश हमारा, सूरज बनकर जग पर चमके भारत नाम सुहागा। जय हो जय हो जय हो, जय 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 हो।
And he is armed to the teeth. Against such a brutal foe, no amount of civil disobedience or of sabotage or of revolutionary terrorism can be of any avail. If therefore we want to expel British power from India, we have to fight the enemy with his own weapons. The enemy has already drawn the sword. He must therefore be fought with the sword. But it is not possible for our countrymen at home to organize an armed revolution and to fight the British army of occupation with modern arms. This is a task which must therefore devolve on Indians living abroad, and particularly on Indians living in East Asia. Friends, if you compare the history of our national struggle with histories of similar struggles in other parts of the world, you will realize that we in India have lacked one thing and one thing alone. We lack the strength and organization whereby we can meet force with force. I am confident that with the help of my countrymen in East Asia, I shall be able to organize such a gigantic force as will be able to sweep away the British power from India in conjunction with those who have already been fighting at home. The hour has struck, and every patriotic Indian must advance towards the field of battle. Only when the blood of freedom-loving Indians begins to flow will India attain her freedom. Inqilab Zindabad. Azad Hind Zindabad.
And for the first time, the Indian flag would flutter proudly in the Indian sky. Yet the moment of triumph would be fleeting. In the jungles of Burma, the forgotten army would make one last stand, and their dream was to shatter in the pain of defeat. Today, the bustling city-state of Singapore is an economic powerhouse, one of the Asian tigers whose roar dominates the world economy. 50 years ago, however, another roar was to go forth from Singapore, a roar that shook the very foundations of the British Empire in India. The story of the Azad Hind Fauj, or the Indian National Army, truly begins with what Winston Churchill called the worst disaster and the biggest capitulation in British history, the fall of Singapore. Chalo Dilli, onwards to Delhi. That was their battle cry. More than that, it was an expression of pain for a long sought after dream. A dream of freedom for India. Give me blood and I'll give you freedom, he had said. And from Singapore, on that overcast July day in 1943, the Azad Hind Fauj would begin its march to Delhi. They would reach Imphal, within a fortnight of the Farrer Park meeting, more than 40,000 men had joined the INA. But there were a number of problems in the practical task of organizing the Liberation Army. Many felt that the way the Japanese treated the new army and Indian prisoners of war as a whole was unsatisfactory, and a dispute led to the arrest of General Mohan Singh. Soldiers and civilians alike, what the Indians needed was a leader, someone who could seize the movement with both hands and propel it forward. A great many Indians in East Asia knew that there was only one man outside India who could start a real Indian National Army. And that man was in Germany. When they came face to face, the Führer avoided the issue of India's independence and Bose's demand to remove from Mein Kampf racist references offensive to Indians. Subhash Chandra Bose and a young companion, Abid Hassan, began an epic journey on the 8th of February 1943, the first stage of which was in a German submarine. In enemy-infested waters near Madagascar, Bose was transferred to a Japanese submarine. After 90 days under the oceans, he arrived in Sumatra. From there, he flew to Tokyo, where he spent a couple of months. And on the 2nd of July, 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose arrived in Singapore.
सुभाष जान हिंद है सुभाष मान हिंद है सुभाष आन हिंद है सुभाष शान हिंद है सुभाष जी वो जान हिंद आ गए है नाज जिस पे हिंद को वो शान हिंद आ गए.
Thousands had gathered at the Kallang airstrip to greet him on his arrival. Among them was a young doctor, Lakshmi Swaminathan.
I still remember very clearly the day that Netaji arrived in Singapore. I was one among the thousands of Indians, men and women, awaiting his arrival. Seeing him, I knew that all the months we had passed of the INA crisis, of frustration and despair were now over, that at last we had found a leader who had come to lead us on to Delhi, on to victory.
A popular cinema theatre today, it was at that time the tallest building in Singapore. Seated in the first row at that meeting, Colonel Dillon caught his first glimpse of Netaji. It was to make an impression that would never leave him.
I was sitting in the front row near the dais and could see Netaji clearly. Rashbihari Bose, the president of Indian Independence League, got up and said, "I have brought for you the best specimen of an Indian, Subhash Chandra Bose." Then Netaji spoke. I shall never forget his words.
हमारे रास्ते में आएगी भूख, प्यास, तकलीफें.
We will encounter hunger, thirst and death on the way. It cannot be said how many of us will return alive. The point is that in the end we shall achieve our goal. India shall be free.
Even on that very first day, we could all feel that now we had found a leader whom we could follow till the end, a leader who would never let us down, a leader who was very courageous and would not expect any one of us to do anything that he himself was not prepared to do.
On the 6th of July, on this Maidan, in front of the Singapore City Hall, 16,000 Indian soldiers of the INA marched past Netaji. It was here, at the Padang, that Netaji gave the movement its war cry. Chalo Delhi. Onwards to Delhi. Here that he called upon the thousands gathered before him to sacrifice their all for the sake of freedom.
I am confident that with the help of my countrymen in East Asia, I shall be able to organize such a gigantic force as will be able to sweep away the British power from India in conjunction with those who have already been fighting at home. The hour has struck and every patriotic Indian must advance towards the field of battle. Only when the blood of freedom-loving Indians begins to flow will India attain her freedom. Inqilab Zindabad. Azad Hind Zindabad.
The magic of Netaji's words resounded in the ears of the young Lakshmi Swaminathan, transforming her. She knew her life would never be the same again.
All night I kept awake thinking of the bombshell that Netaji had dropped when he said that he was going to start a women's regiment called the Rani of Jhansi Regiment. So early next morning I went to see him and told him that I was ready to join the regiment. So he told me, "I want you to first understand that is not just a propaganda stunt, but I want you to be trained as a proper infantry soldier and then to go to the front and take up arms and fight against the British." So I said, "When shall I start?" He said, "You can start from tomorrow." So then I went round and collected 20 young women who had also heard Netaji's speech, and we practiced for 3 days and then presented arms to Netaji at a women's meeting. We were dressed in simple white saris because we didn't have any uniforms, but still we were able to present arms very smartly, and this pleased Netaji endlessly.
We are conscious that the soil of India is going to be the last theatre of war in this part of the world. Friends, I do not know how many of us who are going to participate in the coming battle will survive to see India free.
Subhash Chandra Bose will continue the sacred war of freedom till the last breath of my life. 3 days later, 50,000 Indians assembled at the Padang. An afternoon sun shone gently on them, as Bose proclaimed. The provisional government of Azad Hind declared war on Britain and America at 5 minutes past midnight. The British know very well that I say what I mean and that I mean what I say. So when I say war, I mean war. War to the finish. War that can only end in the freedom of India. Their war of independence had begun.
तू शेर हिंद आगे बढ़, मरने से फिर भी तू न डर, उड़ा के दुश्मनों का सर, जोशे वतन बढ़ाए जा. खुशी के गीत गाए जा, ये जिंदगी है कौम की, तू कौम पे लुटाए जा. कदम कदम बढ़ाए जा, खुशी के गीत गाए जा, ये जिंदगी है कौम की, तू कौम पे लुटाए जा. तू शेर हिंद आगे बढ़, मरने से फिर भी तू न डर, उड़ा के दुश्मनों का सर, जोशे वतन बढ़ाए जा. तू शेर हिंद आगे बढ़, मरने से फिर भी तू न डर, उड़ा के दुश्मनों का सर, जोशे वतन बढ़ाए जा. कदम कदम बढ़ाए जा, खुशी के गीत गाए जा, ये जिंदगी है कौम की, तो कौम पे लुटाए जा. कदम कदम बढ़ाए जा, खुशी के गीत गाए जा, ये जिंदगी है कौम की, तो कौम पे लुटाए जा. तेरी हिम्मत बढ़ती रहे, खुदा तेरी सुनता रहे, जो सामने तेरे अड़े तू खाक में मिलाए जा. तेरी हिम्मत बढ़ती रहे, खुदा तेरी सुनता रहे, जो सामने तेरे अड़े तू खाक में मिलाए जा. कदम कदम बढ़ाए जा, खुशी के गीत गाए जा, ये जिंदगी है कौम की, तो कौम पे लुटाए जा. कदम कदम बढ़ाए जा, खुशी के गीत गाए जा, ये जिंदगी